Hello, welcome back to the Yesterday SBL podcast. And in this episode, we have a very special guest, as I'm joined by Bruce, who announced a few days ago that he will leave the Yesterday Association and he resigned from his position in the Yesterday SBL support team. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and I want to ask him how he felt or how he feels after more than 20 years in the association, what he thinks how we developed, and what are, as an example, also his tips and suggestions for his successor. More than 20 years is a really, really long time, and for me it's really interesting to talk from it. That always has been, regardless where we have been sitting together, on his insight about how it developed and actually also how it came then he tried to support him and so on. So I hope you will enjoy this conversation. Thank you very much for listening again to the podcast, and if you have any feedback, please reach out under podcast@diesta.org. And please enjoy, and Bruce, good luck for your future, and see you soon on the next alumni conference. So in a few days, you will leave Yesterday. How do you feel right now, Bruce?
It's a real mixture of emotions. Part of me is obviously sad when I think of the people that I'm leaving working behind on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. Part of me is excited for the future, but the biggest part of me just can't believe that it's actually happening, because IASD has been such a part of my day-to-day life for nearly 23 years.
23 years.
Nearly 23 in November. So, I find it hard to believe how I'm not going to wake up every day thinking about IASD things,
yes.
And it'll be a real big switch in mindset to kind of, which is why I'm glad that I get to go on holiday before starting on the new journey, because at least then perhaps I get a chance to kind of decompress and to
cool off a little bit as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean 23 years. I mean, I'm now in Yesterday, not even half the time, not half the time. And even for me, I don't know how it will feel like, not thinking about, okay, that's what we can do. And how, I mean, for you said you will miss the people the most. I mean, we have some incredible characters. How will it be for you not to work with Olga as an example? I mean, you worked with her for more than 10 years now. And
definitely. It feels like Olga has, been around almost the whole time, even though, like you say, it's probably been around 10 years. Olga is, without doubt, I would say that the backbone of IASD. And we've been friends for longer than we've been colleagues, I think, and we've had our ups and downs over the years, as anybody does. But the thing that I said to her the other day when we were having our last ever team meeting, was that the thing about what Olga did was that she always pushed me to do better, and to go beyond just kind of doing your day-to-day sort of work. She wants everybody to really kind of like do their best for IASD, and it's because she loves IASD. I think she could have some incredible career, earning lots and lots of money somewhere, doing some sort of corporate job, but she stays with IASD because she loves it. And I think that it was always a great motivation for me. And she never let me just kind of rest on my laurels. She was like, okay, what do we do next? What's next?
I think that's a general really great point in when you're working for us a long time, wouldn't you say, is the love for the association and the love for what we are doing. And I think I always, I've never been paid, so for me that was a huge point of motivation to seeing also, also seeing you and all others in the support team and the board is not paid, of course, but seeing the motivation, especially during the annual conference, was like for me always, wow, they are putting their heart into it. They really believe, and that's why that's a huge point of motivation. But let us a little bit look back. So I told you before, I have like 3 sections prepared for this interview, and let's look back, because you actually started within the UK, as far as I know.
Yeah, that's right.
So in 23 years ago, young Bruce was coming there and
He
joining.
was young as well, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your first impression to the
So
association.
before I sort of tell you about my first impressions, I have a kind of funny story of how I came to ISD in the first place, because I'm one of perhaps the few people that doesn't come from an academic or engineering background.
Okay.
I was just a regular guy, enjoying life. I'd finished university. I'd studied philosophy,
Okay.
and I was very much interested in that kind of area. But job wise, it wasn't. So I'd kind of been working in different sort of like jobs in video stores, like renting out videos or things like that. And I had no real kind of direction particularly, but I was happy. And I went on holiday with some friends to Minorca, Spanish island,
Yes.
Minorca.
Yeah.
And it was an okay holiday. It was slightly out of season. There wasn't a lot going on, but we made friends, some good friends, while we were there. And there was a couple we made friends with, and the one of the couple, she worked for a recruitment agency, and I'd been talking about how I kind of was looking for something, sort of the first step in my career. And she said, "Well, when we get back from holiday, come and see me, and we'll see what we can do." So I went to see her, filled in the forms, and she said, "Okay, once something comes up, it will be temporary,
Yeah.
but I'll call you." So the next day, she called me and she said, "Oh, I've got this position. It's just for a couple of weeks. It's at the British Council
Okay.
in London near Trafalgar Square." So I was like, "Great, okay, it's a good start." So I went to the British Council and I was just assisting, doing some administration for a program called the Leonardo program, which is one of the EU programs going back some time.
I think Leonardo program was like that one before Erasmus, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was kind of,
Yeah.
It was certainly related. So I was doing that, loved being at the British Council. 2 weeks turned into a few months, got to know some people. And then one of the people I got to know really well was Christina Vercomes, the former National Secretary of ISD UK, former chairperson.
Yes.
Of
That's how I got to know her.
Conferences. And she basically kind of headhunted me and said, "Look, I was still doing temporary work at the time. She said, we've got a vacancy in my program called IASTE. I think you'll really like it. Why don't you come and join us?"
Yes.
So I did. And that was in November 1998, when I went and joined IASTE. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea, really even what a student exchange program was. I knew about academics, spending a semester abroad or something, but no more than that. So I quickly learnt how exciting it was, going out, talking to students at universities, telling them about the program. And I started really enjoying it. So my first impressions were it was kind of a very small team, worked very hard, but that was kind of changing lives. From there, even that early stage, that was the kind of sort of, we knew that was what we were doing.
Yes.
So that was how I kind of began in ISD all those years ago, from really a starting point of nothing.
I mean, for me, this story again, I kind of goosebumps here, because
it was again like this why not attitude that a lot of people in IESTA and generally in entrepreneurship, as an example, have. So you were there for a few weeks turned into some months, and then a
Yeah,
person approached you like, wouldn't you like to join? And you were like, why not? And that turned into
yeah,
23 years of experience with IESTA in the end.
yeah,
And that's really incredible. I mean, that's for a lot of people. I think 23 years ago, I was 6 years old. I was going into grammar school. So I joined
sure,
like my first grade in Austria. It was like never thinking about studying or anything. My biggest concern back then was like getting the next bar of chocolate or something like that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you were changing lives.
yeah, yeah. We were, and um, we used to treat every offer as
Mhm.
like a gold nugget that we had to bring to fruition. And
Yeah,
in those days, we were very sort of hands on, so we kind of knew the trainees that we were sending.
yeah,
We got to know them. Um, and in addition, we were also responsible for the social program um, for the incoming students, which is a real eye opener for me because I'd
yeah,
never been exposed before to that many people from different nationalities. So in the summer, we would have 100 people in the UK, and
yes,
that's not including those in Northern Ireland.
yeah,
And we would have a whole summer program planned for them. We used to have a budget, believe it or not.
yeah,
We
yeah,
used to have to put on things and
yeah.
subsidize things and bring everybody together for the London reception at Imperial College. So we'd have
Yes,
100 people from all over the world. It was just incredibly exciting. And I got so many good memories and photos of those events and
yes.
meeting all those people and,
Um,
just sort of seeing firsthand.
I mean, you said those offers were like nuggets. How was it back
Mm,
then? I mean, for me, when I joined, it was like, first you have this job offer, then you receive a kind of CV, and the CV is changing into a person back then. For me, that was when this was the first
mm,
time happening. I still remember my first trainee, I'm saying with, um, yeah, with a smile, because it was never my trainee, but I basically helped her to come to Austria. How was it for you, the first trainee?
I think I felt a bit like a kind of parent, to like not in a kind of authoritative way, but
Yeah,
I was responsible for
yeah,
these people that had trusted in us and that were a trusting in us to go to countries that I'd perhaps even never heard of back then.
yes.
So trusting us to send them and to we know that they would be safe and looked after and have a great time, and also responsible for looking after the people coming in.
Yes.
So I kind of, I felt very kind of maternal towards people. But I was also still young enough back in those days to actually like have fun and participate and feel like, there
Yeah.
wasn't such a huge gap between myself and the trainees. Whereas now, of course, as the years have gone on,
Yes.
I've got older every year, but the trainees have stayed the same age.
Yes, indeed.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of that's been really interesting to kind of that journey.
Yes. That sounds really great. I mean, yeah, I mean, I was now always joking like the trainees become younger, but the problem is I'm getting older, not they are getting younger.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but still, like I still like the attitude every year again with the excitement. They are coming or going on internships. But let's move a little bit on, because then you left the British Council, and later on you got hired by the support team, or by the GST as it was called back then, the Global Support
that's
Team.
right. Yeah,
And
so
let
I
a
think
little bit a recap about this and how that came to happen.
okay, so after I'd been with ISD for I think it was around 10 years for ISD UK, um, in about 2010, 2011, there was an opportunity to be seconded onto the International Inspiration, which is the Olympics program. So we were doing really cool stuff with
Yeah.
people from different countries. So I got to go to Zambia and various places and to um, develop coaching in those
Yeah.
countries in sports. So I did that. And then when that finished, I decided to take a little career break because my son had been born.
Mhm. Ah,
So I wanted to spend some time with him.
yes,
So I
of
took
course.
a career break of a year or so. And then I kept in touch, obviously, with Christina and with Diane Gill, who'd also worked with us on ISD
Mhm.
UK. and we went for lunch one day, and Diane had been employed by IASTI, the first alumni coordinator,
Okay.
sort of a paid part-time role. But she had been offered another job, which she was keen, because she's very, she's wanted to kind of progress in her career. So
Yeah.
she said, why didn't you apply? So I did. I went to Switzerland for an interview with Soraya Minton,
Oh, cool.
and which was fantastic. We immediately kind of hit it off, and I was offered the job, which I was delighted to accept. And that was that was about
You were
10 years
back?
ago now, I think. And I
Yeah.
was back, and it felt like, I think my last annual conference before I left was Copenhagen in 2008.
Yeah.
And then the one that I returned to was 2012 in Skopje in Macedonia. And it was very quickly like I'd never been away.
Yes, I mean, I guess a few people change, but there's almost like, say, the one backbone, like people who are in there, like now they're in there like 25 or 20, 25, 30 years or so, and they've welcomed you back, I believe, like really, oh, where have you been? Or wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
One of the first people that I bumped into in Skopje was our really sadly departed but good friend Henrik Olsen, who sadly passed away some years ago. But seeing him after the 4 years I've been away, talking to him over a beer, and just immediately felt back at home, and back in the Asti family again. So that was a really nice memory for me.
yes. Oh, that sounds really nice. I mean, I think yes, the family is one of huge parts we have, but let's recapitulate a little bit, because now you're 10 years within ESD, ESBL, and before like more than 23 years in ESD. And I think, what do you think we most developed on? I mean, of course, in beginning, like around the millennial, of course, I mean, things were done differently. I don't mean like how like the processes developed, or of course we got new tools and so on. But how do you think we developed as an association over 23
I
years in your
think that
perspective?
the biggest change, I think, is that the sort of structurally, which has led to big changes, is obviously the move from a general secretary who was responsible, a single person
Yes.
with a few board members kind of meeting maybe every 6
Supporting
months or
or
something.
advising.
Advising, but mainly one person being responsible. And I think for a long time that worked really well. And I think the members were all very strong. There were fewer members. There were some very strong members that kind of, were the backbone of the association. And I think when we sort of moved from that structure to a structure of having a support team and a group of motivated, dedicated people, I think the difference is that we were able to do so much more. One person could do a sort of set of things very well.
Yes.
But I think if we were to meet the kind of new challenges, the changing challenges, the technology, the world political changes, the climate change, everything that was happening, I think it needed a bigger team. It needed more voices, and it needed more support for the members to be able to help uplift them and to help them to be able to do their exchange better. So I think that transition for me was a natural one, but also a really important one.
And also, I mean, okay, we now have more people, but actually still the structure on international level is quite slim, to be honest. I mean, we have we have a president. In total, we have 5 board members, including the president, and we have 4 support teams. So there are 9 voices. And then, of course, in the last episode, we had the ITS team who is supporting the IT manager. I was basically now working on the podcast with you, Bruce. And I think it's still quite slim, actually, which makes it quite personal and quite active and fast compared to, let's say, if you would have like, I don't know, 7 board members with like, I don't know how many support team members. Do you think that's still a strength of like the personal interaction?
Absolutely. And I think, over the years, there's always been talk about, okay, do we need as much personal interaction? Do we need to meet every year, or all together in person at the to exchange, etc.? And I think the answer has always been yes, because what makes ISD is the people and the connections. And I think we've really noticed that over the last year, of the pandemic, is that we've all really missed that face-to-face interaction. We've made the best of it, and we've done everything we can to kind of maintain that communication, but there's nothing that will replace actually being able to shake somebody's hand, to talk to them face to face,
Yes.
over a coffee or a beer, and just really have that personal interaction. And I think that's essential going forward, that we get back to that as soon as we can,
Yes.
because it's a part of what makes us who we are, and I think
Yeah.
we should never lose that.
For me, that's one point, like what we learned. I mean, maybe because there has been this discussion in the past years, do we need, like, why is there not an online conference, or why do we need to meet at one place? I think it comes together with the point you said before when you were doing the exchange for the UK and the British Council, that you said you're sending them somewhere, but you know that they are taken care of, that there is a
Hmm.
person taking care about the students. And I think one point is here because you knew those people taking care about your students in their country, right? And you can
Hmm.
only build up this relation when you're talking with each other, and not like
Yeah,
via, we are now talking via Zoom, or
yeah.
I don't know, before it was maybe Skype or Hangout, Google Hangouts and so on. But that's the huge difference, when, because in the small conversations, like I remember one conversation we had, it was at the AC in Cyprus, I think 2 or 3 years back.
Hmm.
We were just sitting there having a coffee, and we basically, I think I missed my first exchange appointment. I'm not sure though. I think I came like a few minutes late because I simply overlooked the time. And those are the little moments where you come together, where you get to know the person, and um, yeah, you trust them. And that's one of our
Mm.
values, isn't it? I mean,
Mm. Yeah, and that's the only way to develop that trust, like you say, is to build those relationships, and to meet people, see people every year, to welcome new people, and
mhm,
you know, to keep that going. So I think that's so essential.
yes. I mean, Bruce, in more than, let's say now 10 years in the SDS build, of course not everything was working perfectly out. I mean, we that's also one of the spirits, we try things.
Mm.
But is there something, looking back, you would do
Hmm.
differently?
We do differently. I think sometimes. I mean, me personally, or do you think the association? I mean,
How do
it
you, how you like to answer? I mean,
okay. So I think, you know, sometimes there is a reluctance to kind of to change. There is a very understandable desire to things as they were, or to look back to the past when things were
mhm,
great,
yeah,
um, and I think sometimes that meant that we perhaps weren't as quick as we could have been
hmm,
to make the changes to meet the particular issues that you face today, or
yeah,
some
well,
years
back
ago.
then,
So I think that's a nature of having an association of more than 80 countries. It's to get everybody on the same track,
yes,
to especially when you're trying to make changes, is always very difficult. But I think certainly over the last 5 years,
mhm,
I think so much has been done to bring people along, and to actually develop and make the changes that are essential, if we want to thrive,
yeah,
as an association, not just survive, but actually, thrive. Um, so yes, it would have been nicer sometimes to be able to go quicker, but
yeah.
I understand why, that sometimes couldn't happen.
Yeah, I think that the one point is that every voice matters. I think that's I mean,
Mm.
of course it would be nice if it would go on faster, But I think that on the other side, we value every voice, and if there is a really critical voice, okay, why we are not doing like that? It's not like that we are pushing it away and saying, yeah, we want to do it. We are really listening and trying to understand, and of course that makes us slower, but we want to include people, and that's the positive point. I mean, talking about the last 5 years, which had a huge development also on the marketing side, and you in your role you had to do a lot with marketing, and I think one point was also moving away from the alumni platform we were trying to build up, and moving on to let's say LinkedIn and Facebook and all that stuff. So I mean, especially in the past, let's say 1.5 years, what's happening on social media is simply incredible. I mean, that's really amazing. I think I don't know how much we improved actually there in simple point of numbers. But it's also the quality and using special tools and looking at that. Are there some things, let's say last 10 years or in 20, are there things you're really proud of that you pulled that off, like you personally in Yester?
I don't know about personally. I think the biggest change has been, I think for a long time, it was the areas that I was working on or responsible for were down mainly solely to one person, to me. So it was kind of led. But since, maybe 5 years ago or so, we've really developed an amazing team structure that I've been so pleased with. So look, it's no longer a marketing person, it's a marketing team. We have Martin, and we have Olga, and so we develop these things as a team, and I think that's how we've managed to kind of improve and to have a real structure and to increase the quality is by working with each other. So I'm proud most of that kind of teamwork, of developing that, and I think that goes across all the different areas that we work in ISD. So if you look at exchange, if you look at IT, it's now an incredible amount of teamwork, whereas before I think we worked much more in silos. It was just kind of, this is your job, you do that, this is your job. There's none of that anymore. We're one big team, and I really miss that. That teamwork, because it's, but I also feel good that I'm leaving at a point when it's working so well, and there's indeed so many exciting things going on that anybody can be a part of. That's the great thing about it, right? If you have an interest in marketing or IT or exchange, and you're a young student that's joined ISD, there are plenty of things that you can get involved with if you want to. Regular work groups and meetings, and your voice can be heard, like you said earlier. So I think that is incredible.
Indeed. I mean, if you want, coming now, because now we are going into a recruiting process actually, because we have obviously to find a replacement for you. I mean, replacement is here the wrong word. We need a successor who is doing their job now on leaving. So are there any tips you would give your successor, whoever it will be? We are now starting recruiting. Any tips for him or her starting this position?
The tips would be to just be open and to try to do what perhaps I sometimes didn't get the time to do as much as I would have liked, which is to kind of be more in personal contact. Sometimes you get kind of so busy just kind of creating the work and stuff. It would have been nice to really to reach out to the members more and to have more conversations and stuff. And it's one of the things that I've noticed that Valentina Carrasco has managed to do, and I've been really impressed with the work that she's done, because she, so I think listen, hear voices, get more input, carry on the great teamwork, work with the board, and with Olga. Olga is an amazing resource. She
Yes.
sort of knows everything there is to know about ISD. So, but most of all, just enjoy it.
Yes.
That's my advice. Enjoy it. It's great fun, and working with really like great people, and be prepared to stay for a long time. Because once you get the bug, it's very hard to imagine not doing it.
Yes, yes, indeed. I mean, I think that's especially when you're once and I had the pleasure to be part of the team for quite some time now, and
Mm.
also via different task forces before and so on. Yeah, you don't want to leave them normally. So I can imagine how
Yeah,
hard the decision must have been to say, okay,
yeah,
it's really time for you to leave, but it's really
mm.
hard to make that decision because it's not they're not just your working colleagues, they're your friends, I have to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, definitely. And I think the good thing is that they are your friends, so
Yeah,
you're not gonna
yeah,
you're not going to leave them behind. You're keeping in contact, and
mhm.
as you would with any friends. But also, I'm not silly enough to think like I'm actually going to be able to leave ISD fully, as you know
That's
yourself.
great to hear. That's
There will
amazing.
always there will always be things that I want to contribute to
maybe
and to
maybe
get
I should
involved.
recruit you as one of the hosts of this podcast, so I don't have to do every interview on my own.
Yeah,
We
well,
could share.
we can talk about that.
Let's talk about it after the recording, okay?
Yeah, sure. So it'll never be a case that I
Yeah.
just kind of on tomorrow at the end of tomorrow I just switch off the computer and that's it with ISD. Don't be surprised if you see me at an alumni conference, perhaps 1 January, um, because like you say, I got so many friends. It would be crazy not to take the opportunity to meet up with them and to spend time with
Yeah.
them.
Um, Again, coming a little bit to your successor.
Mm.
So, are there any things you would like to see to develop over the next years? Things you maybe think now that would be nice to have also in the future, or this would be, let's say, not just an advice to do, but
Mm.
things you think we can still improve?
I think we're just at the beginning of the journey in terms of we have a new website, and a
Yes,
large part of that is the internships page,
indeed. Yeah.
um, and I think my successor um, should really, I think, put a lot of focus on working with countries to encourage them to share their opportunities, their internships on that page, and to market those. Because I think one of the issues we've had in the past is it's not the lack of internships. I think we have the internships. It's finding the students, and what we've realized since we've had the new website and the exchange platform, so students can register by themselves, is that we have a huge pool of
Yes.
students. So I think the marketing person that comes in has a really big job to do to make sure that these pool of students are aware of all these amazing opportunities
Yeah.
so that we can fill them, because I think that's the direction that we should be
Yes.
going in, both on the international level and nationally, is to focus on filling all of those opportunities.
Indeed. I mean, from the international ASBL perspective, we are there to support the countries to promote their offers, but in the end, our members have to promote them too.
Yeah.
And it's basically they have to take care about the students, because I think you also took care a lot about our international partners and doing also some nomination work for non-member countries, which are students
Mm-hmm.
where we don't have a member or cooperating institution, so we took care about them. But in the end, then in those countries, they have to take care. But what we can do is support them. And that's, I think, something
Yeah.
also your successor needs to understand. We're here
Mm,
to support. It's called the
mm.
support team, not just for the board, but all the members.
Exactly. At the end of the day, we all work, whether we're volunteers or staff members. We all work for the members.
Indeed.
It's that, and we should never, forget that. Everything we
Mhm.
do, the goal should be to make the association better for the members. To
Indeed.
make improvements for the members, to make their lives better, to make their lives easier, to help them to be able to do more exchanges,
Yeah.
which is what it's
Yeah.
all about at the end of the day.
Yeah. So coming a little bit now to the last section, which is kind of personal. I already told you I would like to ask. Yeah. So I mean, I think there were a lot of stories you can tell, and going maybe not too personal, whatever you want to tell. But is there any story you rarely tell people about Dieste or what you experienced? Um,
Well,
and you would like to share, of course. I mean,
I think nothing very like controversial.
yeah.
I think one of the main journeys that I've had in ISD, other than the work, is it kind of as I've kind of sort of grown up. So when I first went to my first conference was in Durban in South Africa in
Mm-hmm.
2001.
Yeah.
So I was quite a bit younger then. So I used to like to have fun.
Yeah.
And that continued over the years. So the stories perhaps would more come from people like Christina would have some good stories to tell about me. She'd be a good person
Yeah.
to have on the podcast. My good friends Vanya Paulik and Michael De
Yeah.
Bono, who I became very close to, they would have some good stories to tell, but I'm not sure it's my place
I mean,
to tell some of those stories. But I've grown and grown up with ISD over the years. So now towards the end, felt much more like an elder statesman. So I was very responsible,
Mhm.
and but it's been a really, really fun journey
Yes.
along the way.
I mean,
Um,
there is one story I can share. It was at the AC in Berlin when we were
mhm.
going to the um, karaoke bar, and I will never forget you singing a song of, I think it was John Bon Jovi.
Right,
I think it was "Living on a Prayer."
right.
I'm not sure. And singing solo on the stage, it was really incredible, to be
You know
honest.
what? If I'd had a couple of beverages in me, I certainly enjoyed getting up on the stage and having a bit of a sing.
Yeah, and it was actually pretty good. So,
One funny story that's just come to me
okay.
was back in the first annual conference that was in Bangkok. So there were two in Bangkok, but it was
Yes.
the first one. And as you know, in the international evening, some countries like to dress up. Most, in fact, either in national costume or something fun. So Christina and I decided to dress up that year as characters from Harry Potter, and so Christina dressed up as, I think it's Professor McGonagall or someone
Yeah.
like that, and of course I was Harry Potter.
Yes.
So I had the right hair length, I had the glasses and the wand and everything. And I just remember as I was walking up the stairs to go to the room of the international evening, all of the hotel staff stopped, pointed, again, Harry Potter, Harry Potter. And I've never felt so famous in my life. All these people super excited because
Yeah.
I look like Harry Potter. So that was a nice story. And the many times that I used to dress up in full kilt, from the
Yes.
Scottish.
Yeah.
So that was, those were the fun times, the international evenings and having fun and
Mhm.
feeling famous.
Looking back, what has been your yes the moment? So the moment you knew, okay, you probably will stay quite some time in here.
I think there was a time when I was back still with ISD UK,
Mhm.
and so I was an exchange coordinator, and we worked really hard, the team, on the exchange. We to give as many opportunities as we could. And back then they used to give awards for countries used to score each country on their exchange and the quality of
Mhm.
the exchange and stuff. And we won like best country
Mhm.
for the UK for 3 years in a row. And I remember the first time when our name was called out, and I never felt such like pride It was strange, I almost ran up to the stage to collect my award. I was so proud that all the work that we'd done had been kind of, recognized. And you don't get many of those opportunities like it. I felt like a bit like scoring a goal in a cup final or something, just that kind of everybody like clapping and cheering. And I thought, that feeling made it all like worthwhile. And I knew that then. I thought, I love this association.
Yeah.
I can see myself staying here, for a long time. So I think in the end, they had to change the scoring because it got a bit unfair, us winning every year. So they changed the scoring around to give somebody else a chance. But
of course,
those years with ISD UK and really like working so hard and being rewarded for it were very special.
That's really beautiful. And before now, I'm looking at the time here.
Sure.
Before I come to my last question, and actually we are recording this on a Thursday. So it's before the European Football Championship Cup final, where England is part of the final. So my one question is it coming home?
Undoubtedly, it's coming home. Not only is it coming home, but it's coming home in a comprehensive 3-0 victory with Harry Kane scoring a hat-trick.
So he also will be the best scorer of the tournament then?
Absolutely, he'll win the Golden Boot. And we will win 3-0, and the whole nation will not go to work on Monday because they'll all take the day off.
Perfectly fine for me.
To celebrate.
So everyone listening so far in the podcast, first of all, thank you. But you also can compare Bruce's tip for the final to the reality, because once this is coming out, the final is over and we will hear. And Bruce, let me come to my last question, which I normally have a little bit differently. But for me, as you are now leaving the ESBL support team and pursuing another career, and I wish you all the luck, and a big thank you also from my side for all the work you've done. Of course, I mean, obviously, I always enjoyed our conversation, so I was so eager to have you here. So what's your last message for everyone getting to know Jeste now briefly? Your last message to them after your experience of 23 years?
I think for the young people thinking about doing an internship, don't think about it, just do it. It will literally change your life. We've all lost count of the amount of reports we've read or people we've spoken to that their lives have been changed by this amazing experience, meeting people all over the world, working, getting amazing work experience. So just don't think about it, do it, be adventurous, choose countries you've never heard of. You'll be well looked after. And as an association, I would just like to say that, we're on the right path. I know things have been difficult lately with COVID and even before then, but we are absolutely on the right path with the right people. And just be open to new ideas, open to, giving those opportunities to many more people in the future, however that may be. And I think if we talk again in 10 years, I'm positive as I am about the England result. I'm positive that ISD will be in amazing shape, and still exchanging even more internships every year.
Thank you very much, Bruce. And I hope that both predictions come true.
They will.
They will.
I'm sure.
Absolutely. I think we agree on that.
At least one of them.
But I'm very positive. I'm sure about the one for Jeste.
So am I.
And I'm also quite sure about the one about England. Yes. Thank you very much, Bruce.
It's coming home.
It's coming home. And thank you very much for your time and dedication.
Thank you, Mike.